Okay, I am here in area number 1, Google form. We'll be talking about area of circles. You may use a calculator on these problems. So first we're going to review topic 1.1 when we talked about the circumference of circles. We found that the circumference formula where c, the circumference, is equal to pi times diameter. Or we could say that the circumference is equal to 2 times pi times r because it takes 2 of the radius lines to make one diameter, right? 2 radii make up 1 diameter. So here's a review of the parts of a circle. Of course, we have the center of the circle. That's where the circle gets its name. Halfway across the circle, so from any point on the edge to the center, that is a radius. And if you put two, like I just said, 2 radii together, so if I had another radius line from here to here, well, then that would be all the way across the circle through the center, which of course is what the diameter is. From one edge of the circle to the other edge through the center, that makes up a diameter. If we go all the way around the circle, if I start here and travel all the way around the circle, that is the circumference. It's the distance around the circle. All right, so number 1 here, if the radius is 6, what is the diameter? So the radius is halfway across the circle. So if it's 6 halfway across the circle, what is it all the way across the circle? Well, it would be twice of 6, right? 2 times 6. That would give you the diameter. And number 2, we're going the opposite way. So if we have the diameter, if you know all the way across the circle is 14, then what's the radius? What is halfway across the circle? Number 3, you're given the diameter and you're asked for the circumference. And so what you need to do is write down the circumference formula. C equals pi times diameter. On a piece of paper, I would write that down, then plug in what you know. I don't know what C is, so I'm going to leave C as C. I know pi is equal to 3.14. I use 3.14 for pi unless the problem specifically tells me to use the fraction form. So 3.14 for pi, and I know d, the diameter, is equal to 12, so I'm going to plug that in for d right here. Okay, so to find circumference, I take pi, 3.14, times 12. I put that in my calculator and then put that in for the answer. And number 4, I have the radius and I want to know the circumference. So I'm going to write down circumference formula, c equals pi times diameter. I'll plug in what I know. I know pi is 3.14. Do I know the diameter? Well, I know the radius, and if I know the radius, I also know the diameter, right? If halfway across a circle is 4, that means all the way across a circle, or the diameter, would be 8. So I plug 8 in for the diameter. So 3.14 times 8, that will give me the circumference. Now, in numbers 5 and 6, I am told the circumference, and I am asked for either the diameter or the radius. So it's very important that if you're given circumference, again, write down circumference formula. C equals pi times diameter. Then I'm going to plug in what I know. I know C now. C is this, 56.52. So I plug that in for C, 56.52. I bring my equal sign down. Do you know what pi is? Yep, it's 3.14. So I plug that in for pi. I do not know the diameter, so I'm going to leave d, the diameter, I'm going to leave that as d. Now I need to use my knowledge of inverse operations. To undo this multiplication, I would divide by 3.14, since that is the number being multiplied by d. So I divide both sides of the equation by 3.14, so that those 3.14s simplify to 1 times d, or d. And so d, the diameter, is equal to this stuff right here. So 56.52 divided by, since that's what the horizontal fraction bar means, 56.52 divided by 3.14, that will give me the diameter of that circle. So put that in your calculator. Now in number 6, I'm given circumference and I'm asked to find the radius. So again, I will write down circumference equals pi times diameter. I know what C is. C is this, 43.96. Bring the equal sign down. Do you know what pi is? Yep, pi is 3.14. I do not know the diameter, so I'm going to leave d as d. Again, I have 3.14 times d, so to undo the multiplication, I would divide. I'm just using my knowledge of inverse operations. I divide both sides by 3.14. And so d, the diameter, is equal to, I'm going to put this in my calculator, 43.96 divided by 3.14 equals, and I get 14 in my calculator. Now, what did the question say? The question said, what is the radius? I know the diameter. So I'm not going to say the radius is 14. The diameter is 14. But if you know the diameter, you also know the radius, right? If all the way across a circle is 14, then you know halfway across the circle is 7. Okay, so that's all review. Now into some new stuff. Talking about the area of a circle. So the circumference is the distance around the circle. The area of a circle is the region or the amount of space inside the circle, right? So we want to know how much space is inside the circle. And so here's our formula. A is for area equals pi times radius squared. That is an exponent. And so my radius is squared, and then I multiply by pi. So for example, in this picture, as you can see, I have a radius of 3, right, halfway across the circle. And so what I do is I take this 3 and I plug it right there in for r, in for the radius. Now, whatever the radius is, you must square it first before you multiply by pi. Okay, so if my radius is 3, I square it, which means 3 times 3, right? If I have 3 squared, this is exponent. We learned this in 6th grade. This 3 right here is the base. That is the number that gets multiplied by itself this many times, 2 times. So do not multiply the base times the exponent. This is not 3 times 2. It never, ever means 3 times 2. It means 3 is a factor twice. So that is 3 times 3, which is 9. That's why right here you see 3 squared is 9. And then 9 times 3.14 would give us this. Notice that your units are inches squared, right? Circumference is not square units. It's like the perimeter. It's just normal units, singular units. And when you find the area of a circle, it is squared units. So number 7 right here says, what is the area of a circle? So because I'm asked about area, I'm going to write down area formula. So area equals pi times radius squared. So I write that down every single time. Now I look for in the circle, what am I given? What is this right here? From here to here, halfway across the circle, that is the radius, right? So let's plug in what I know. I don't know A, that's what I'm asked to find. So I'm going to leave A as A. A equals, here's pi, that's 3.14. Okay, what about the radius? The radius is 4. Now watch what I do here. I'm going to put the 4 that I'm plugging in for r, I'm going to put that in parentheses. Okay, and I'm squaring it. So area equals 3.14 times 4 squared. 4 squared means 4 times 4, which is 16. All right, so area equals 3.14 times 16. I put that in my calculator, and I get 50.24. All right, so 50.24, and this would be square inches, but just put the number into the form, 50.24. Number 8, what is the area of the circle? So you're asked about area. I'm going to write down area of a circle formula. Area equals pi times radius squared. Let's plug in what I know. I don't know A, so I'm going to leave A as A. Do you know pi? Yep, pi is 3.14. Radius, what's the radius of the circle? What is from here to here? What am I given? I'm given the diameter, right? All the way across the circle through the center. I'm given that the diameter is 3. Sorry, if the diameter is 6 here. So if the diameter is 6, that means the radius is half of that, or 3, right? Half of 6 is 3. So that is what I'm going to plug in. That is what I'm going to plug in for r. Okay? Now I have to square my radius first. So I'm going to leave 3.14 as 3.14. I'm going to do 3 squared, which means 3 is a factor twice, or 3 times 3, which is 9. Then in my calculator, I put in 3.14 times 9, and I get 28.26. So that is my answer, 28.26. This would be square meters. Okay, a couple more. In numbers 9 and 10, we're given the area. We're given the area, and we're asked to find either the diameter or the radius. So because I'm given area, I'm going to write down the area formula. Area equals pi times radius squared. I know that the area is this, 12.56. So that's what I put in for A, 12.56 equals. Do you know pi? Yep, pi is 3.14. Then I'm multiplying this by radius squared. Okay, now to solve for r, like we did previously where we undid the multiplication by division, we do something very similar right here. We undo the multiplication by division. I divide both sides by 3.14. I'm just using my knowledge of inverse operations. So when I do that, these 3.14 simplify, and on the right side, all I have left is this, r squared. In my calculator, I put in 12.56 divided by 3.14. 12.56 divided by 3.14. And I get 4. Okay, now this is not what r is. This is what r squared is equal to. Now, I haven't taught you yet that the inverse of a square is a square root. So basically now what you need to think about is what number can this be so that you square it and get 4? What number multiplied by itself twice would give you 4? Well, that would be 2, right? If this was 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4. So my radius is 2. But I'm asked here for the diameter, right? So if I know radius, I also know diameter. If the radius is 2, if halfway across a circle is 2, that means all the way across a circle, or the diameter is 4. So diameter is 4. Okay, last one that we'll do together. Number 10, area of circle is 28.26. What is the radius? So since I'm given the area, let's write down area formula. Area of a circle is pi times radius squared. Now I know what A is. A is this, 28.26. Area is 28.26 equal to pi, which is 3.14. So I'm going to write down 3.14. I don't know the radius, so I'm going to leave it as r, and of course it's being squared, right? That's what this says right there. Now to undo multiplication, since I have 3.14 times r squared, I need to undo multiplication by division. So I divide both sides by 3.14. Okay, so that these 3.14s simplify to 1 times r squared, which is simply r squared on the right side. Okay, now in my calculator, I put in 28.26 divided by 3.14, and I get 9. Okay, so some number squared equals 9. What number multiplied by itself would give you 9? That would be 3, right? Isn't 3 squared 9? 3 times 3 is 9. So r must equal 3. That is the radius. So I'm going to put in 3. The radius of this circle is 3. Okay, you try numbers 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. You're finding the area of a circle. So be sure you write down the area formula and then plug in the radius, whatever the radius is. Like make sure in 15 you're given radius. Okay, in number 14 you're given the diameter. So be sure you're plugging the radius into the area of a circle formula. Once you're done, submit, view your score, and then click Edit Response to fix the ones that you missed.